Be me. Greater than 26 years old, living in Chicago. Friends think I'm confident, always calm. Truth is I hide panic nightly. Nobody knows silence eats me alive. Tonight, it lasted 2 full hours. I sat staring hard at the door. Every tick of the clock hit harder. My chest grew tight. Breaths turned sharp. 2 hours stretched longer than imagined. The apartment shrank, shadows crawling around me. I replayed fights, each worse in memory. Finally the lock clicked, stomach twisting fast. He stepped inside slowly, shoulders already slouched. His guilty eyes looked ready for punishment. Shoes scraped loud, nerves burning inside me. "You're late," I said, cold but steady. 2 hours. Each word landed like stone. He inhaled deep, bracing like icy water. Jake's car broke down. He needed help. My phone died. I never meant this. But his words felt thinner than silence. Excuses can't rebuild what silence already shattered. I crossed my arms, pulse ringing ears. He kept glancing sideways, hunting for escape. But there was nowhere to hide tonight. I stepped closer, standing inches away now. I stared straight, refusing to blink first. He looked down, anywhere but at me. "Why not text?" My voice cracked slightly. One word was enough, just one. Silence hurt worse than excuses ever could. His jaw tightened, fists clenched, knuckles whitening. "I didn't think," he whispered, voice shaking. Everything collapsed at once. I lost control. I exhaled slowly, fighting back rising anger. Pressed my hands against his pounding chest. "I don't want fights," I said quietly. "I need proof we matter to you. Not words, not promises, show me actions." He finally lifted his head toward me. His eyes looked exhausted, heavy with fear. Fear of losing what he still had. His lips parted, words forming then dying. The silence stretched heavier than before tonight. I pressed harder against his trembling chest. His breathing stayed uneven, shallow and desperate. "Don't tell me timing," I whispered low. "Show me you care. Words mean nothing." He stared silently, then eyes softened suddenly. Fear shone clearer than his tired exhaustion. I held his gaze, demanding something real. "That's all I need," I said softly. He nodded quick, like agreement would save him. But deep down I doubted his honesty. Was it truth or fear of losing? "I don't want to lose you," he whispered. In that moment, I believed his fear. But fear alone never changes old patterns. I leaned forward, testing if he'd resist. Instead, he froze, then clung tightly to me. His arms around me felt desperate, crushing. "I'll fight for this," he said, shaking. I wanted to believe, but belief cuts. Trust without action always becomes a gamble. I held my breath, resting on his shoulder. The tension lowered, but doubt still lingered inside. This wasn't peace, only a fragile truce. And fragile truces often break too fast. I moved aside his backpack on floor. A wristband slipped out, glowing tonight's date. I froze staring, plastic cutting into palm. It was Trolley Barn, the bar forbidden. I lifted it slowly, eyes locked on him. He froze instantly, breath caught deep inside. Silence screamed louder than any excuse possible. He didn't reach for the wristband immediately. His shoulders stiffened, eyes locked on mine. Finally he spoke, voice low, nearly rehearsed. 10 minutes. The crew went in together. His words fell flat, weak against silence. I set the wristband slowly on the table. He exhaled hard, waiting for my judgment. "If this is the line for you, then I'll never go back again." He tried holding my stare, but failed. His hands buried deep inside his pockets. Silence thickened heavier than any past fight. I didn't shout, didn't accuse, just stared. Sometimes silence cuts sharper than any rage. His throat tightened, Adam's apple moving sharply. Every inch of him braced for impact. Like he already knew I might leave. I kept the band visible between us. Trust breaks quietly, not always with sound. I walked past, grabbed a sticky note quickly, wrote 3 words, slapped it against door. Textiflate. Clear, sharp, undeniable rule. No speeches, no begging, no more excuses. He glanced at the note, then at me. A small smile trembled across his lips. But his eyes carried nothing but doubt. I saw hesitation flicker inside that look. Was this forgiveness or just a warning? His shaky breath betrayed his fragile hope. I leaned back against the counter silently. Every choice tonight weighed heavier than words. He paced the room slowly, hands in pockets. Every few steps his eyes darted to me, like he wanted to explain but couldn't. I stayed still, arms crossed, waiting silently. Finally I asked, "Why lie about it?" His head snapped up, eyes wide, defensive. "I didn't lie," he answered too quickly. "Not telling truth is same as lying." My voice cut sharper than I intended. His mouth opened, then closed, words dying inside. Only his uneven breathing filled the silence. I tapped the counter, sound echoing like hammer. 2 hours imagining everything, I said coldly. One text could have spared me all that. He winced hard, guilt spreading across his face. "I know," he muttered, voice cracking under weight. "I was stupid, I wasn't thinking, I'm sorry." The part that stung was he wasn't lying. This wasn't betrayal planned, it was neglect. And neglect sometimes hurts sharper than betrayal does. He finally walked closer, steps heavy and slow. He placed both hands firmly on the counter. "I don't want this to ruin us." I raised an eyebrow, holding my stare steady. "Then stop making me question my worth." His eyes flickered, glassy but meeting mine. "You matter," he whispered, "more than I show." I hated how much I wanted belief. Because belief without proof is dangerous always. I grabbed the sticky note, held it up. "This isn't paper, it's the bare minimum." He nodded fast, desperate to agree instantly. But eagerness isn't proof, it's only fear. Fear isn't enough to carry trust forward. I set the note back against the door. The silence between us swelled, heavy again. My heart pounded, torn between anger and exhaustion. I pressed the sticky note harder against door. Small gesture, but heavier than any speech. Rules don't save love, but they draw lines. He stood behind me, voice low and rushed. "I'll follow it, I understand what it means." I turned slowly, crossing arms, studying him carefully. He looked younger suddenly, stripped of defenses completely, like a boy caught, promising to do better. The sight softened me briefly, but doubt remained. Softness delays truth, it never erases doubt. "Then prove it," I said, voice firm. "Not tonight, not tomorrow, prove it consistently." He nodded quickly, surrender showing in his face. For once, he didn't argue, just accepted quietly. Silence filled room, fragile but less sharp now. He reached down, lifted wristband from the table. He stared at it like holding a curse. "I didn't drink there," he muttered softly. "It was co-workers, noise, but I know appearances." I searched his eyes for cracks or hesitation. I found fear, exhaustion, but not dishonesty. And somehow weakness scared me more than lying. Weakness can destroy as much as betrayal does. He rubbed his neck, restless, avoiding my stare. "I don't want to be that guy." His voice cracked, honesty cutting deeper than excuses. "The one who swears change, then repeats mistakes." His words struck harder than silence had before, because he sounded like someone doubting himself. And self-doubt often becomes a prophecy fulfilled. I swallowed slowly, voice steady despite my chest tightening. "Then don't be that guy," I whispered. He nodded again, eyes wet, face stripped bare. For a second, I wanted to believe him. But believing hands him power to break me again, and I wasn't sure I had strength left. We sat at the table, silence weighing heavy. The wristband between us felt like a witness. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, head lowered. I watched him closely, waiting for words finally. "Do you even understand?" I asked sharply. His head lifted slowly, eyes tired, glassy. "Understand what?" He replied, voice rough, defensive. "This isn't about Jake, cars, or phones." I leaned closer, forcing him to face me. "It's about me feeling unimportant, forgotten always." He flinched hard, my words cutting through everything. "I never wanted that," he said quickly. "But you let it happen," I fired back. His mouth opened, then closed, guilt choking speech. I tapped the table, sound echoing sharp, cold. "Sorry won't fix this, not anymore now." His shoulders slumped lower, eyes sinking to ground. "I know," he whispered softly, broken and small. I sighed deeply, exhaustion heavier than sharp anger. Belief without proof is pure self-destruction slowly. He reached for my hand, trembling, hesitant touch. I let him hold it, didn't squeeze back. His skin warm, shaking with desperate energy inside. "You matter more than I show," he whispered. I wanted to scream, words meant nothing alone. But I stayed silent, too tired to fight. Exhaustion sometimes drowns louder than angry yelling. His thumb traced circles on my knuckles nervously. I'll do better, he promised, voice softer now. I don't want to lose you. He spoke like losing me was inevitable tomorrow. That ache in my chest twisted painfully deeper. I pulled my hand back, slow but firm. Then start now, I told him flatly. Not tomorrow, not someday, show me tonight. His eyes widened slightly, surprised by calmness. Calm can cut scarier than anger sometimes. Because calm means the decision might be done. He leaned back slowly, eyes darting away nervously. Like the ceiling or walls held safer answers. I stayed quiet, arms crossed, holding my ground. Sometimes silence drags truth faster than questions. He rubbed his palms together, restless, uneasy always. Finally he looked up, eyes raw, trembling slightly. I'm scared, he admitted, words cutting straight through. Scared you'll wake up gone one day. The confession struck deeper than excuses ever could. Honesty without polish stings sharper than lies. I don't want to lose you, he added. But I keep screwing up, never learning. His voice cracked under weight of self-awareness. Fear alone doesn't change repeating broken patterns. You should be scared, I said firmly. Not of me leaving, but wasting us. He blinked, stunned by bluntness in my tone. I know, he whispered, softer, defeated instantly. I leaned forward, elbows resting hard on table. Change means actions, not promises, not words. He nodded quickly, jaw tense, eyes filled wet. I'll prove it, he said, voice shaking slightly. I wanted to believe, but fear blocked trust. Believing means handing him power to hurt again. He reached for wristband, holding it reluctantly tight. He stared at it like it carried a curse. I hate this thing, he muttered bitterly. Not for the bar, but what it caused. His fist clenched once, knuckles whitening from pressure. Then he set it down carefully, deliberate, controlled. I saw regret in him, but weakness too. Throwing away proof is easier than living change. I bit my lip, weighing words against actions. Part of me wanted to accept belief, but another whispered it might fade quickly. And temporary change cuts worse than no change. Because temporary hope dies twice as painfully. I turned away slightly, heart heavy with doubt. The night pressed heavy, silence filled the air. Oh, we didn't yell, but distance hurt worse. Sitting together close, yet feeling miles apart. He fiddled with the wristband nervously, restless hands. I stared at the sticky note on door. 3 words heavier than anything he'd ever said. Textiflate. Simple, sharp, but unforgiving. Bare minimum should never feel like a gift. I wanted to see this as turning point. But doubt whispered it was only temporary. Finally he spoke, voice low and uneven. Thank you for not giving up yet. I tilted my head, eyes narrowing at him. Thank you for what exactly? I asked. For not leaving, he said with strain. That phrase hit harder than any excuse earlier. Not leaving, yet meant the clock was ticking. I kept silent, letting the weight crush him. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. He forced a small smile, lips barely steady. But his shoulders stayed tense, betraying the truth. I stood slowly, reaching for my jacket nearby. He jumped up quickly, panic flashing in eyes. Where are you going? He asked, voice sharp. Nowhere, I said, pressing note harder again. This stays here. This means everything from now. He nodded quickly, swallowing hard, eyes locked on me. The air felt thick, only his breath audible. I studied him one last time that night. A question lingered, burning in his expression quietly. His lips curved weakly, but eyes stayed doubtful. Behind that smile flickered fear, not confidence. He didn't know if this was forgiveness, or if the countdown had already begun silently. And truth is, neither did I anymore. That's the cruel thing about love sometimes. It hides between honesty and manipulation constantly. I leaned back slowly, chest heavy with doubt. He stood frozen, eyes darting toward the floor. His hands shook slightly, buried deep in pockets. I felt exhaustion stronger than sharp anger tonight. Because exhaustion drains louder than yelling ever could. We sat together, but silence swallowed everything around. He whispered softly, I'll change, I promise you. I wanted to believe, but promises felt weak. Belief without proof is just self-destruction slowly. He reached for my hand, trembling, hesitant movement. I let him take it, but stayed firm. His skin felt warm, desperate, almost burning slightly. You're everything to me, he whispered shakily. I closed my eyes, unsure if I believed. Because words never outweigh the weight of actions. I pulled my hand back, heart pounding sharp. Then prove it, I said quietly, coldly. He nodded quickly, but fear still filled him, and I saw doubt shining in his eyes. His lips curved weakly into another forced smile, but his shoulders stayed tense, betraying his fear. Behind that look was uncertainty eating him alive. Was he relieved I stayed, or terrified instead? I pressed the note firmer against the wooden door. 3 words louder than anything he had spoken. Textiflate. Clear, sharp, undeniable forever. He swallowed hard, nodded, unable to reply further. The night ended heavy, filled with questions unspoken. Trust wasn't rebuilt, it was only delayed briefly. I lay awake wondering if change was possible, or if fear alone was fueling his effort. Because fear can fade, but habits rarely do. And I wasn't sure how many chances remained. Sometimes honesty and manipulation were the same mask. Sometimes survival looks too much like devotion. And sometimes you don't know until too late. If you were me, would you call this honesty? Or would you see it as manipulation instead?